Bombshell tonight. Nolan Wells audio distress call. Is it real?
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the work coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey.
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right. Well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir.
I don't know the phone number. It's either. I think it's. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
Unless
on
you
here.
have a
It got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
You are hearing the audio distress call from the boat. That is the boat on which Nolan Wells went to Horn Island. Now, there have been a lot of different accounts about whether he was on the boat when he came back from Horn Island, when he was supposed to come back from Horn Island. He never came back from Horn Island. And you can clearly hear on that version, which we obtained from the Mississippi Department of Marine Research. They released it. It's not something off TikTok or Insta. Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. What are we hearing?
Nancy, this is the audio call from the boat that Nolan Wells took out to Horn Island. And the boat is attempting to leave Horn Island because the boat is taking on water. What we are hearing is the call from the boat to the group they have.
Cito, let me help you. Reminder, Dave Mack, we've only got 1 hour to cover a lot of territory. That is the Cito call where the grandson of the boat owner thinks that they're taking on water. Joining me right now, special guest Brandon Tatum. He is a former police officer with Tucson PD, and he is the star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. He has interviewed Nolan's friends. Now, we're about to bring on two experts, each one taking a different viewpoint on that call. But, Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us tonight. No matter what you say, just know you're going to get hate mail. Doesn't matter what you say. If the angel Gabriel came down right now and spoke on this case, he would get hate mail. That said, what do you make of that audio, officer?
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for having me on. If you put the audio within context, it is an impossibility unless these people are prophesying that somehow they're saying Nolan's name or projecting that Nolan is somehow injured, hurt, or killed, because we have witnesses that have come out. When I interviewed Warren, a lot of those kids that I talked to already alluded to this way before the audio came out, that they were gone. And people had already saw Nolan after they had left. The young lady, Katie, that he was hanging out with, I saw a text message from her alluding to the fact that she never saw him get on that boat at all. We have video of the boat that we shared on our social media page, and it shows all the occupants on the boat, and Nolan was not there. And so if a person thinks that they've heard something on the audio, they have to compare it with context. Maybe they said, "Is it dead?" talking about items that could potentially have died or damaged on the boat, given the fact that they were sinking. So I think people need to put this in context and reevaluate what they're listening to on the video, because if you are going to make a staunch stance in the wrong direction, in my opinion, by saying they're obviously talking about Nolan, it is incredibly impossible. One more thing, real quick, that when you look at where they were at when they made the phone call and their GPS coordinates, it literally put them on the island. And we know, and not on the physical island, but really close proximity to the island. And we know, because we have another video of Nolan being out there and also all the other boats surrounding him, that this would have had to happen very near to hundreds of people in hundreds of different boats. So somebody would have seen something if there was a dramatic commotion like this occurring on that boat.
I hear what you're saying, Officer Brandon Tatum. That last part that you said, that there were hundreds of people around and they would have seen what happened, that part, I disagree with that. John Mobley joining us, veteran trial lawyer out of South Carolina. John, take off your defense hat one moment and let's address that statement. Do I have to say Tupac? That just comes off the top of my head. Crimes happen all the time in a crowded area and nobody sees anything. Either they say they didn't see anything, or they really didn't see anything, because it all blends in, right? It all blends in. I've had a little boy thrown off the 3rd level of the Mall of America almost to his death. He did die and he was brought back to life. Nobody saw what happened. A guy threw him over. People were all over the mall. The food court was crowded. Nobody saw. I had like 2 witnesses. So I think part of it is, Mobley, you don't expect to see something, and so your mind is not interpreting, it's not intercepting what you're physically seeing. And again, we don't know what happened. We don't know why Nolan Wells has a red mark on the back of his occipital. We don't know. Was he hit? Did he fall? Then fall off a boat? It could have been any number of things. Some nefarious, some an accident, some negligent. My point is, just because there's a lot of people around, that does not guarantee you witnesses, Mobley. You know that better than anybody with all the cases you've tried.
Well, Nancy, I got to call it like I see it. I think there are 2 things I want to say to address that. The first part, I would agree with you that, yes, a lot of people can be around and they can notice something, and something can happen rather, and people not see it. However, I think the way that the human mind works, we would all agree, is we perceive things all the time, okay? And we may perceive something that at the time we perceive it, it is not deemed significant. However, in this case, I do believe that if someone did see something that they didn't pay particular attention to involving Nolan Wells, once all of this has come out, the way the mind works is it'll trigger what they saw before, because now it becomes significant, okay? So I do agree that people can perceive things and not pay attention to them, but when something significant happens later, sort of like being robbed, you're not paying attention to what everybody's wearing, but if that one of somebody robs you and later on you have to recall what that person is wearing, what they look like, you can recall it because it's important at that point. But at the time they perceived it, it was not important. So that's what I want to make sure I discuss. And I do want to address, you talk about the red mark on the back of his head. I mean, I think that is a red herring. That's something that everybody kind of latched onto because they're so desperate for any information that might be related to the cause of his death. But even the own pathologist that conducted the autopsy did not
put him up. Mobley, are you a medical doctor? Yes, no.
I know how to examine forensic evidence based on the countless homicides that I've tried.
Not hearing, yes, no. You're not a medical doctor.
I'm a juris doctor.
Are you a medical examiner?
I am not.
No. Put up the back diagram, the back of the head of Nolan Wells from the second autopsy right now. You know what? I give it to you, Mobley. You're a great trial lawyer. A medical examiner, you ain't. And I don't know why you're saying people are latching onto this, grabbing at straws. I'm looking right at it, man. Should I believe you or my lying eyes? I am looking at the second autopsy. And I have questioned multiple actual medical examiners, actual doctors that say that means something. Put him up again. In what world would the first medical examiner remove Nolan's throat if it did not have something probative about it, something that proves something? Did they remove his toe? No. His elbow? No. His eyeball, his nose? No, they took his throat. Do not tell me that a medical doctor, which you are not, took a throat out of this young man because it means nothing. And then, you know what? I can't even hear you. Straight out to Joe Scott Morgan joining us, professor of forensics, death investigator. That second doctor did not highlight that in red for nothing. That doctor is not grabbing at straws, as Mobley said. I don't know why he's saying that.
No, you're right. He has purpose. We have purpose in everything that we do in the medical legal world. And so when you see this highlighted area, it's unique in the way he has diagrammed it here. He even demonstrates it that it has almost like margins to it. And, that's what has left a big question for us, because it's not like it's diffuse all over the place where you've got these kind of spotty alignments. He's got a margin. It almost looks like a rectangle, doesn't it? Well, when we begin to see things like that, we think about patterns. And that's some of the questions that have yet to be answered. But what he does say in his relative to the second examination is that he did a multi-layered dissection. Now, this area had not been dissected by the ME's office in Mississippi. So what he's doing is he's going layer by layer. We're talking about the skin. We're talking about the subcu fat. We're talking about the musculature that's under there. And yes, there is musculature under there. And what his conclusion is, Nancy, is that there's significant decomposition at this point in time. So he cannot make a determination about these markings one way or another. He needs more information. And admittedly, in this second autopsy, he says this is pending investigation, and that's key here.
Okay. Joe Scott Morgan.
Yes.
He, the first medical examiner, removed the throat.
Yes.
No other part of the body, except for the lungs, removed the throat and the lungs. We know why he took the lungs. I don't have to be a death investigator like yourself with 10,000 death investigations under my belt to know why he took the lungs, to see if no one drowned. But the fact that someone has a lungs full of water does not tell me how they got in the water. Did he fall? Was he hit? Was he held under? Was it an accident? Did you see that video? Pull it up if you can, control room, of all those ships, all those boats out there. If he was between one of those boats, lost his footing, went under, got the riptide, no one may have noticed. All right? No one may have noticed. Look at all that. And there were apparently 300 or so people out there. This is just a tiny microcosm. It's July the 4th. Everybody's at Horn Island having a good time. So it could be any number of ways he landed under the water. But my point is, that's why they took the lungs. Why the throat?
Well, because the throat and the throat area, as you're referring to it as, it's actually the organs of the neck. We're talking about the larynx, the pharynx, our windpipe, essentially, and everything else that's connected therein. That's the conveyance to get into the lungs. So one of the things, what they're looking at here, Nancy, to put it very bluntly, is they're looking for any possibility that his breathing could have been compromised. Well, how is that compromised? Well, when you begin to think about, if you put your hand in the midline of your throat, right here, okay, you begin to think about the trachea, which is encompassed right here. Was it compromised in any way? Are there any focal areas of hemorrhage? Has it been crushed? You would go up into the neck. I suspect that the tongue was probably removed as well. You're going to look at the hyoid, which, did not accompany the body. But all of this has been retained. There's nothing abnormal about the state retaining the organs of the neck. This happens very, very frequently in cases like this because they want to be able to go back and examine it. And also for the future, they either want to get a consult on it or it has evidentiary probative value here moving forward with any kind of case in the future.
We're bringing in our forensics experts, but back to Brandon Tatum, former police officer, Tucson PD. He is the star of the Officer Tatum on YouTube. He has interviewed Nolan's friends. Okay, you're saying that I am looking at, and others are looking at this out of context. My mind is open. You may be right. And I believe, Officer Tatum, you are specifically referring to the words, let's see the transcript of the audio as I read this, please. You're referring to alleged statements. Sure, he's dead? Is he dead? Nolan. OMG. Nolan, don't die. Then wake the F up. I thought he was on the check his chest. Now, to you, Officer Tatum, you believe that there is an innocent explanation. My mind is open. And that innocent explanation would be what?
Well, I think that if you are convinced without context that they are talking about Nolan, you're going to hear certain things and perceive it. I mean, the bilge pump is damaged. They could have been saying, don't die, or is it dead, referring to the bilge pump or the bilge pump. And they could have been talking about a battery. They could have been saying no, and people think they said Nolan. The only reason that I deviate from the transcript is because there are witnesses that have said they've seen Nolan after the boys had already left and after the call was already made. And also, I put my detective mind on, when I look at the reasoning, but why would they be calling and giving GPS coordinates and talking to this dispatch for 8 minutes if their best friend, whom I've spoke to these boys, they've shown me pictures, they were emotional about Nolan's death. I was there during the funeral, at least there with them when the funeral was going on, and they were devastated that they couldn't go to his funeral. I perceive that it doesn't make sense if they had killed their friend in a malicious way or he was dead, that they wouldn't just simply ask for help instead of trying to cover it up and calling for a tow and talking for 8 minutes. I mean, all of those things, plus the witnesses, it just doesn't add up. And I just wish people would be open-minded to saying, let me rewatch it and let me put it within context that Nolan cannot be on the boat because witnesses seen him afterwards, and let me re-listen to it and try to put it in perspective.
So you're saying witnesses saw him afterwards, after that call, or did you mean to say witnesses saw him elsewhere?
Yeah, no, witnesses saw him on the island after the call. After the boys had left around 4:30, witnesses have seen Nolan alive on the island after that. So, you know, that puts Nolan alive after that. And I think that people should be focused on, okay, now let's interview and talk to people and consider what did they see, because we're already past the point of Warren and Wyatt's boat and all of those things being involved.
Officer Tatum, I had so many trial judges from all the cases I tried in different courtrooms, but one particular judge, my favorite, Luther Alverson, he had a particular jury charge, and I've heard it so many times, I've memorized it. He said to the jury at the end of the case, after the closings, it is your duty to make all witnesses speak the truth and impugn perjury on no one. So, what I'm trying to do is reconcile what you're saying with what I'm hearing. I hope Nolan Wells died by accident. But I'm not shutting down our Crime Stories investigation until I know. Now, I want to address this sound. To Joe Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon. At Jacksonville State University, they have a world-class Crim Pro lab and setup. In fact, I've called on Morgan many times to help me recreate crimes in their labs. Star of Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. Joe Scott, You've been on so many death scenes, trying desperately to get to my experts, but I got to lay the foundation, as I would do in court, before I bring in a piece of evidence. Joe Scott, people do crazy things when somebody dies. They panic. They think it's their fault, whether it is or it isn't. They get rid of the body. They lie. They do all sorts of things. The cover-up is very often worse than what the initial incident was. People panic. So the reaction of the friends to Nolan potentially having passed, that reaction doesn't mean that much to me, because you don't know what somebody's going to do under those circumstances. So hearing them on the boat, I hear what Tatum is saying, and it's reasonable. But how people act in that scenario is not always reasonable.
No, it's not, particularly when they're faced with somebody that's in distress and they are under the influence of alcohol. And that's going to play a huge role in this from an investigative standpoint. And not to mention, probably a group of people that don't have a lot of experience with alcohol. We're talking about a group of underage kids. We're not talking about upper end college kids here. We're talking about kids that are 18 years old. They've been getting hammered out there on this island, and that's a problem, Nancy.
Well, you're right. Okay, not that Tatum, in his own right, is not an expert. He's a former police officer with Tucson. Joe Scott, an expert. Mobley, an expert. But now let's go to our digital experts. First, Todd Shipley joining us, digital cybercrime expert, former Detective Sergeant, Reno PD, 25 years in law enforcement, author of Surviving a Cyber Attack, Securing Social Media, Protecting Your Home, author of Investigating Internet Crimes, An Intro to Solving Crimes in Cyberspace. He says nothing he hears on this audio shows that the audio has been altered. Okay, Shipley, hit it.
Well, we have to look at the fact that the audio that we received is, again, one of those that was released by the press and is probably been stepped on multiple times. Just like we had last year with another famous video.
Did you say that was released by the press? Hold on, Tom. That was not released by the press.
It was
released to the press, but it was released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. That was not released by the media.
Yes, Nancy, but TMZ in every station that's released it has put a copy that they've edited up onto online. And so we have this expectation bias that's there. So the audio obviously is real. It's been released, and the agency that released it has said that it's a video or audio of the incident, but every version that we've seen has been stepped on multiple times. And so there's an expectation bias when you start putting up audio translations that you believe is there, and everybody then has this confirmation of that this is what's said. Now, we have to go back to the original audio from the government agency to get the information that we need to prove what's there in the audio, because multiple pieces released through press stations online don't always have the exact audio we want. There's already been speculation that some of the different audio, like TMZ's and the others, are a little bit edited, and they always are, because you put them on there for a specific purpose. And adding the edited versions of what you think are the audio does not necessarily mean that that's what it is. We can look at the audio and find out what's there, but we've got to look at the original version.
Hi guys, American homeowners. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft, and your equity is the target. With just a forged signature, your ownership can be transferred out of your name, and without protection in place, you're left with an emotional and financial nightmare. That is why we partner with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code Nancy at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you're a victim of fraud, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your home equity today. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Nancy, or just use the link below. And good luck. Joining us now, in addition to Brandon Tatum, Joe Scott Morgan, John Mobley, now with us, Robert Freed, joining us out of Long Island, Certified Forensics Analyst, EVP of Forensics, and Chief Investigative Officer at Page One, Inc., author of 5 books, including Forensics Data Collections 2.0, and a book series, and his website is forensicsbyfreed.com, F-R-I-E-D, Freed. Okay, you say there are a lot of red flags. What are they?
Absolutely. Nancy, what I look at evidence is it possible to authenticate the evidence, the information that's being provided?
And understand, I'm not disagreeing with you. But my question is, what are the red flags that concern you about this audio? Now, Tatum says the audio's fine. It's just they're not talking about Nolan. They're talking about the bilge pump or the battery or the engine. And you're taking it, some people are taking it in the wrong context. I'm not taking it in any context. I'm trying to find out, what am I hearing? So That's Tatum's take, okay? Shipley says, I think it's legit. You're saying it may not be legit because of red flags. The fact that it is or not authenticated, how it's been enhanced, that's a concern. What do you see as a problem? One thing I noticed you said earlier before tonight is that on the TMZ version, there's an additional 20 seconds. Now, I've got a problem with that. Hold on. Mobley, I'd have a problem with that if somebody gave me, let's just say, a bank robbery video, and then I find out there's 20, 30 seconds missing. Oh, no. You have to have it all. And the last thing I want is somebody adding in video. So that's a red flag to me. That's one of Freed's observations.
Nancy, this is what I think. I think that, both of these gentlemen make excellent points, but they're missing the link to tie it all together. And that's what's important.
And let me guess, you, John Mobley, are the only one that knows the missing link. Okay, I got to hear this. Go ahead.
Well, what you need to do when you have that audio is, irrespective of the method that was used to enhance it, because just because it's enhanced, I don't see it something that's being used in the courtroom as much as the newsroom. But you want to take that audio and then you go back to the witnesses, okay? And you want to make sure you interview them separately, not together, because you don't want them to somehow commingle in their stories, but ask them separately. Play the audio for the witnesses that were on the boat, play it for them separately, individually, and ask them to corroborate what they're saying, okay? And what's going to happen is
Tatum said he did that. Yeah, you're right, Mobley. With that, I agree. Back to you, Robert Freed. Given what Tatum, Shipley, and Mobley are saying, the red flags, let's go with that TMZ version. What about that? Is that a concern?
Yeah, I mean, I heard hold music when that started, and, there was a lot of commotion going on in the background. It's really difficult to actually say, what people are actually saying in those particular versions. Yes, you do need to apply filters. You do need to apply different ways to focus in on it. But my whole thing with the different audios that are out there are that people are doing enhancements. They're posting this. They're doing amateur methodologies, and they're putting it out there saying, this is what you need to hear. Take a look. They're putting the words out there before people are even listening to the video. So it's automatically setting the stage for everybody to start paying attention to things a little bit more. But again, if you have to go back to looking at this from the source, that's the best bet, because that's going to allow you to look at this unfiltered. And that's probably what law enforcement has. There could be snippets that are missing in those specific moments that are redacted, for example, that may hold more clues that we're not hearing. We don't know exactly what's said in those moments that we don't have full access to.
Okay, that is an interesting point. That could be very probative. Of course, enhancements are used in court all the time, so a jury can hear what's being said. There's nothing wrong with that, but as you say, Freed, you have to authenticate and explain what you did, like we just had Dave Mack explain, and yes, it was all written down, FYI. But
excellent.
You stated that on an earlier occasion, much of this tape, this audio was redacted. How do you know anything was redacted, or are you guessing?
Well, the phone numbers, you can hear the cuts in the phone numbers where they say, what's your phone number? What's your account number? And it's basically blank. It's not anything. It's silent. So right there, we're missing the account number, the private information, but we're also missing what else is going on in the background. Within a couple of seconds, people can say something that would be really important. We're not getting that full picture.
Is it altered? Is it probative? Does it prove anything? Is it a bombshell? If you know or think you know anything about the death of this young star athlete, Nolan Wells, please dial 228-769-3063. It doesn't matter what the information is, as long as it's the truth. There is a $125,000 reward. We remember American hero Lieutenant Eric Lloyd, Vegas Metro PD, passed away in the line of duty, leaving behind a wife turned widow, Mindy, and children, Cassie and Stephanie. American hero Lieutenant Eric Lloyd. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us tonight as we continue the investigation into the death of Nolan Wells.